War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn Family spectrum. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this on the replay or you're actually here live. On these shows, we talk about anything that's Auburn related, always heavy on the sports, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do here because we love talking about all these good things. Obviously, the main topic for today's stream is going to be the Auburn A-Day post-game breakdown, talking a little bit about what we all thought about, what we saw, what we heard, what we think we saw, what we think we heard, because I think there's going to be some interesting takes from the game itself that I already saw floating around on social media, that I saw floating around after the game, just talking to people. So let's talk about that a little bit today. But as always, whenever we get together, anything is fair game. So if you'd like to discuss anything really on the Auburn spectrum or even some other things as well, we can try to get into those, but we'll try to stay mainly on the topic of post-game discussion points for A-Day spring game, which was nice to have after 2 years. It was really nice. Like I'm a little burnt. I don't know if you can tell. My arms are burnt. You couldn't see my legs, but my legs are burnt. It was worth it, though, to be back on the plains after well over a year and not getting my fix on that. A couple things here we want to do at the start of each show. If you haven't, please do make sure you smash that like button. It does help the stream. It does help other people know that are subscribers that we are live. It kind of pushes it out to all that. So that's a really simple thing that you can do. Just smash the like button. Really simple thing to help us out, even if you're watching this on the replay. Also, make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell marked so you know when we go live or when we post some more content here for you on this channel. A couple things as well we want to share with you at the start of every show, ways that you can help support what we're doing here. All of these links are in the description for this video, but there are a couple at the top for you to check out as well, especially one pinned. The Booster Club. It's very simple. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support the content we do here. We have several of you that already do that, and we are very appreciative of that. It does help pay the bills on producing well over, I did the numbers today, not today, but recently, 703 podcasts since we really started keeping track of this, but we've been doing it much longer than that, so it's probably closer to 800 and 900 episodes. So, yes, there are plenty of things to help support here on the network, as well as this YouTube channel. So there's that, and there's also the link for the podcast. I hope that you'll check that out. That's our bread and butter. Several different shows with several different topics, so obviously mainly around sports, but really, as we say, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do here. So as you come into the show, please do make sure you say hello, War Eagle. Let me know that you're here. Post a comment or a question, or even, and as I got to get back in the habit of doing this all the time, I want to do the roll call. Where are you watching from right now? City, state, international. Post all that in the chat window. Let's see. Got some questions and comments already coming in. A-Day is always bland when they show us what they want us to see. No game planning or nothing, just some us for the fans. So having a hard time, obviously typing sometimes. You type as fast as you can. Understanding what you're getting at there. If you're saying it's bland because they only show us certain things, well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this. It's not to give your game plan away for this. So the spring game is really about just getting the guys out there in a somewhat similar game atmosphere to see how they react, because there's a lot of position battles being had right now, especially in a new era with a new coach, a new staff. There's people that are trying to prove themselves and say, hey, I don't belong in the back of the depth chart as I've been under the previous regime. So there's a lot of that going on. So yes, the blandness is as you said, is always there, but there's a reason for that. So if you're going to A-Day to be wowed and to be like thoroughly entertained in the way that you would traditionally be in a football game, you're not going to enjoy it. That's why you have to learn to intrinsically enjoy it on other levels. True GA fan, by the way, saw your comment, man. Let me give you guys a little bit of background. As I said on previous live streams, I would do my best to go live while I was on campus. The Wi-Fi there is horrible. So we did try to go live one time on Friday evening. Actually, it was out in Sanford Lawn, and we did for a little bit, and I took it down because, it only lasted for like 3 seconds before the Wi-Fi cut out there. It is horrible sometimes out there, and so I tried my best, but that's why I warned you all that you need to pay attention on social media, because that was the easiest way to get things. And even then, sometimes, your social media post wouldn't go out. So anytime we're on campus, we'll do the best to do live streams that we can. Usually it's pretty good down by the Tiger Walks box, so we're usually able to do that as a live stream, like on a social media platform. If you want us to do live streams on here via my phone, because I can't carry a laptop around all the time, you have to help us get to 1,000 subscribers, because that's when you have that option to do that here on YouTube. But was it as bad as people are saying as far as performance? Well, I guess, True GA, to answer that question, you'd have to ask, are you suggesting that the people on Twitter actually know what they're talking about? I don't mean to be mean, but everybody just wants to have the snappiest post, oh, look how witty and cute I am on there. Look, it's a day game. Some players are going to look good. Some players are going to look bad. I mean, I would say I walked away from it being about the same. It's hard to really get a gauge on my biggest sticking point, the offensive line, and my biggest concern, the wide receivers. Well, that may be a little bit more encouraged by what I saw there. But yeah, I don't. If you're looking for social media to give you clear and concise thoughts about how this game went and a spring game, think about that. You're not going to get it there. So I don't know where you're getting that information from, but people are just going to, it's the bad news sells. So people are going to harp on that to get their clicks and get their likes and stuff like that. Yehan, what's going on, man? Says our O-line was actually looking kind of solid at points during that game. I'm definitely excited. I will say, Yehan, I did find myself, especially I think the middle of the first quarter on, really, instead of watching the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the running backs, kind of focusing on that. I did see a little bit of what I felt like was improvement. Again, it's a spring game, though, so you really, you can only tell so much, and you're playing against each other, because that's you've been playing against each other all practice, so you kind of know each other's tendencies and stuff like that. And you're playing against the second-team defense. I'll also say that I noticed as they started subbing more people in further down the depth chart, some of the old tendencies started to arise, and you saw Bo scramble a little bit more because he wasn't getting any more protection. So some of those old tendencies came back as we got further into the depth chart, which was a little concerning for me, that the depth was not much better than what we were seeing last year. Again, in a spring game. So that's what you have to take that away from there. If Grant Loy is our number 2 quarterback, then we are in a world of trouble. I hate how Demetrius Davis and Shael, by the way, I've been calling him Khalil. Shael Garnett got little to no reps. So I think there's a couple ways you can look at that. Was Grant Loy impressive in terms of numbers and things and accuracy and stuff like that? Probably not. Were you really expecting him to be that much better than Bo Nix? I mean, that's the funny thing about this for me. And when I see people so disappointed about that, I'm like, guys, I've been telling you the entire time, Bo Nix is the best option that we have. And I'm not, Cam, I hope you understand, I'm not saying that it's you specifically, but just the notion that we're supposed to be massively disappointed that Grant Loy didn't look like he was going to take the job from Bo Nix. No. So also Demetrius Davis and Shael Garnett. Shael, that was a little bit shocking to me that he didn't get more reps since he's been there longer. But I unfortunately, just my speculation, that tells you a little bit of something about that's two administrations, but regimes, coaching staffs that have now said this is where you are in the depth chart. So a lot of people like to blame that on, Coach Malzahn saying not knowing what he was doing. That's 2 different coaching staffs saying kind of where you're at. So that kind of tells you something about that. Also, with Demetrius Davis, I know the hype is there. Guys, I'm excited about it. He made a great throw. A lot of people forget that he should have had a pick 6 that hit a guy in the hands right after that, too. He's a freshman. He's brand new. He's very talented. Not taking anything away from him. He is not ready to play at this level consistently just yet. Doesn't mean we can't use him this year, because remember, you've got is it like 4 games, I think, that you can use somebody before they burn their red shirt now. So he will probably be used with his talent and his ability to, just get around. So I do think that he's got some advantages that Auburn should use if for a certain amount of time. All right, I'm getting a little bit behind. I might be addressing some of the things that you are already saying. By By the way, do you know what was with the tweet about Bo Nix around yesterday? That's just, I think somebody originally posted that, and then that was just everybody trying to make fun of the person who originally did it and catched on. And as I've told you, social media for most people is about getting the likes and getting the clicks and all that kind of stuff, and they want to be part of that, feel like they're special or something like that. And when I say these things, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's just the reality of the situation. I mean, my job as a podcaster is to get likes and clicks as well, but I try my best to not be so Twitter, if that makes any sense right there. And Yehan posted it right there so you can look at that. Yeah, that was just going all the way around. Demetrius had an incredible deep ball ability, and in my opinion, a better field under center than the other QBs. I'm surprised by how deep he could throw. So, Jack, I will caution you, as I already said, that was one throw, and I think you're forgetting what he did right after that as well. And I even noted to someone who was sitting right next to me, because we talked about it, people are not going to focus on that. They're going to focus on the one throw, and you're throwing against now the third at that point and backups in the defense. Not taking away his ability to throw the ball deep. That doesn't, anybody can throw the ball deep, just in terms of ability. And it was a great pass and put it in the spot. Same time, though, don't get caught up on the one throw. You're going to set yourself up for humongous disappointment and humongous frustrations if you're expecting Demetrius Davis to be the starter. He's not the starter yet. Yet's the operative term there. Let's see. Playboy says, I don't know why people are so mad about A-Day, because people want to be mad about something. I mean, it's just the way it's kind of turned. And that's why I try my best to not get into social media too much, other than what we have to do just to, obviously interact with you guys that are there and stuff like that. But you spend too much time there, you'll become an angry person. After seeing the wide receiver, I think after summer training, there will be more prepared. It's going to be exciting, all the things that will happen next season. So Jackson brings up a great point. I think, and I said one of my concerns was for the wide receivers, they're all talented, but they're all still young. Same thing that goes with Demetrius Davis. Problem is you've got an offensive line that's unproven. You got a quarterback whose confidence is shaken, and now he's got to expect these young wide receivers to catch the ball. And there are a lot of drops, again, in the A-Day game against some of them were against, there was the second team defense when Bo was playing. But, I saw talent there. I think, you're seeing some names emerge. Javarius Johnson, Kobe Hudson got thrown to a lot. Whether it was outstanding or not, I don't know. Elijah Canyon, obviously, with his touchdown from Bo in the end zone, which was a pretty nice play by the two of them connecting. Using tight ends, the first play of the game, first completion on the first offense with Bo was over the middle to a tight end, and that was Tyler Fromm, I believe. Who thought Tyler Fromm would catch the first pass from Bo in that game? Oh, man. Shia needs to transfer because he could be a great quarterback, but he won't be here. I don't want to. I hope that he doesn't transfer because we need depth, even if that means that there's a drop off from that depth. Because, as we saw, Grant Loy, who seems to be number 2 right now, didn't have the best day, but it's one day, so you'll have to see. But yeah, you may see that happen. Unfortunately, in this era of I can go anywhere I want at any time, you might see that happen. He threw a slant straight into a third-string linebacker, and if it was Steiner or Popo, it would have been caught. Davis isn't close to starting, but his under-center movement was very good. He sells to play action. Yeah, so I think you obviously see what you're going to get out of Demetrius Davis. And, when I caution people to not buy the hype right now, it's not to say that the hype's not going to come and be there. It's simply because I want to see us set ourselves up for disappointment when he's not the starter. Bo is the starter. Bo is going to be starting it. He is the best option right now, and we need to get behind that. Now, so I do think there's a lot of things about Demetrius Davis that are going to play well for Auburn, and I do think that he is going to be an asset going forward. And I think he understands his role. I think he understands that right now he's got to bide his time, earn his keep. And you never know when the opportunity arrives. At this rate, if the offensive line doesn't improve the way that we hope that they would, I think the likelihood of maybe a Bo, well, I shouldn't say likelihood. You would hope that Bo wouldn't get hurt because he wasn't being protected, but that might be a possibility. So, next man up. Any thoughts on DB, who moved to running? Devin Barrett during A-Day game. I sat there thinking about it because when I realized, this is a reality, he's there. We all heard it. He was going to be a running back. Seeing him bounce back and forth, you just wonder, all the bouncing back and forth, his body has had to kind of change for both things. How effective is he going to be in terms of being a running back? We're pretty solid with Tank and Shivers. I'll say that much. Tank and Shivers are a nice little combo. And I don't think a lot of people were going to expect that. Everybody was thinking Tank and that's it. People have, for the longest time, been ignoring how good Shivers is at what he does. He's almost, to me, if you remember, you had Trey Mason, and there was also Cameron Artis-Payne, but he really didn't get the snaps until later on and in the next year. But Corey Grant. They were two different running backs, but were each good at what they do. Same thing with these two. They complement each other well for a nice change of pace. You've seen Georgia do that a lot. So Sean Shivers and Tank are going to be good together, I think. But back to Devin Barrett. I'd love to see him get some more touches. You always need more depth there. Obviously, they feel better about the depth at the defensive back to give him an opportunity at his traditional position at running back. That's about as far as I go on it because I just there wasn't a lot there to get excited about, to be honest with you, from my opinion. My favorite part of A-Day was Shivers being used the way he's supposed to be. He's a boulder on legs, not a jet sweep specialist. I think he can be used in a jet sweep specialist because of his bowling ball ability. If you noticed, his bowling ball ability came when he got the run on the outside, and which you traditionally use on a jet sweep. He may not be the right player mentally, because I think when I say mentally, that's not saying he's not capable of it. It's saying that particular play, that particular type of offense is built upon your ability to read, to make a quick decision, and to know when is the right decision. And maybe that's not something that he's as good at in that type of scenario. But yes, we did see that he flourished yesterday. And, Tank obviously stole the show, but he looked pretty good as well. By the way, we've got a good crew assembling here. Everybody hopping in. Don't be afraid to ask questions, drop comments and stuff like that. Hit the like button as you do come in if you're enjoying this type of content, please. I think we saw improvement with Bo, and you would like to see, and you would see it if he had last year's wide receivers. Our wide receivers are lost, and also it's nice. Davis. It's nice, and Davis and the rest are okay. Can't really understand that a little bit, Shane. Sorry about that. But, yeah, I do think if the wide receivers from last year were still here, you'd probably see a little bit more consistent. Could you imagine? I mean, think about that. That wide receiver core, had any of them stayed around, Bo would probably look a lot better in people's eyes because there'd be a lot better catches. Although, remember, they had some catching problems as well last year. Speaking of Shivers, I would love to see him use his hand a little bit more in the slot. Hands, I guess you say. Also hope they do quick slants and screens with him as well. People were very upset with the quick screens and not slants, but that were being utilized. I think people forget that's not just a Gus Malzahn thing. That's a traditional thing that's used to spread the field, and it's used to make yourself, open up in some other areas. What else stuck out to you guys? Ladarius Tennyson moving over. I think he made a little bit of noise for himself in terms of being, Jeremy and Sherwood being gone has opened up that role for him to utilize and make himself known a little bit. So that's an option as well. Marquise Burks, I think, was another name that probably stuck out on defense. I'm trying to think of other bigger names. The defense as a whole, I think, won the A-Day in terms of looking the best. And you can take that for what it's worth. Maybe it means the defense is really good this year, which you would hope is the case because it's been consistently good most years. Last year was a bit of a step down, but, Coach Steele's, and I know he's not here anymore, but his players he was recruiting, all that kind of stuff, they just, they always were pretty consistent with a little bit of a drop-off last year, so you probably would expect the same thing. Auburn Freak, he's asking the big question that everybody wants to know. Just what was your honest opinion about Bo Nix yesterday, seeing the improvement? It's all a little, it's hard to tell improvement in an A-Day game. I think people were looking for something, and because they were looking for this specific thing, most people are probably not going to see that improvement. I think I would much rather, my honest opinion is, and I'm not just trying to juke the question, you can't tell improvement in an 8A game where they're live but they're not. Bo Nix's improvement hinges upon not obviously what he does himself, but the offensive line. And when you, as I said earlier, when you saw some of the backups come in offensive line, he had to run more and make more decisions. He's proven he's good on his legs. He does not have to prove that. He does need to prove that he can be a little bit more consistent with his accuracy. And I think there were some moments where he showed that. It was nice to see him connect over the middle at the very start of the game with a tight end. Got people very excited. So improvement, that's a real hard question to answer when you're not really in a thorough, really truly live situation. I saw a lot of 4-2 thoughts on that. If you're talking about 4-2 in the defense, I guess that's how you're referring to that. We've been running a lot of that. I think personally what you're seeing there is the goal is to move over to the 3-4 defense, and you've got players that you've recruited for the 4-2 type of defense that we've been running for years. So you're going to need to run some of that as you work into the new system, as you recruit better players in. So you're going to almost have to probably, in my opinion, run a hybrid, and that's why you saw that. Just a quick take, kind of thinking about that. I'm not shocked that we're seeing some of the old stuff that we used to do as we transition. I think Gus Malzahn, for all the credit, set the precedent of first year success. If you're expecting that to happen this year, and when I say success, it means to what degree. If you're expecting that this year, you're in for disappointment. If you're expecting an 8 to 9 win season, I think an 8-win season is highly likely. I think a 9-win season, it's possible. It's probably going to be a little tough, but it's doable. Anything beyond that is going to be a big surprise, which would be very pleasant. When Bo used his legs, it looked like he was a QB who knew he wasn't allowed to get hit. Let's hope he doesn't think like that in the game. Well, yeah, you can't really judge that in a situation like that. Looked like they were having fun during the game. I hope the team can use this as confidence helping into the season. Well, think about it. They didn't have a spring last season. Can you imagine, not having that? That's a routine-based thing. You don't get your reps in that you need. You don't get the feel of everything. You're going to see, I think, a lot better play overall college football-wise because you had a spring game, a spring season, a spring game. People are just going to be a little bit more confident. It's going to be more fun just to be out in the field more in a somewhat normal environment, which it was nice for me to be out there as well. And by the way, I don't know if it was just me. The game went by real fast. I literally looked down one time in the third quarter and it was over. I know they had the running clock, but it just kind of blew my mind how quickly that went by. Saw him do that. I was looking for Bo to stay in the pocket no matter what and throw it away when nothing's there. I saw him do that 2 times. I think if that's what your expectation is, you're going to be disappointed because if he does that all the time, not all, when I say all the time, 90% of the time, he's going to go down before he even gets to throw. I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. This offense gets fixed when the offensive line gets fixed. That is the key to this. Not Bo Nix. In essence, it trickles down to Bo Nix. But the more confidence he has that he can be protected, the better he looks. I'm not sure if it's been discussed, but Loy's time should have been split between Lindsey, David, and Garnett. You mean Davis. He can't seriously be our QB too. So a couple things with that. He's playing with the second team offense. He's playing with the second team everybody. So while the responsibility falls on himself to make the best of what he's given, you have to take that into account as well. You also have to take into account that he's got the seniority, and he does probably deserved a chance to prove that he deserves to be there, and so this was probably his shot to do that. So I don't think you should be necessarily upset with that. I think you should be, okay, we figured that out. Maybe, as from what we saw in the spring game, Grant Loy shouldn't be the backup quarterback. Maybe it is okay to move Garnett, to move Demetrius Davis into that number 2 or together type of spot. Again, it's a spring game. Don't get too caught up in that. If the coaches feel that he's the best option at number 2, that should tell you something about the rest. I think it's a little bit disappointing for everybody because everybody was associating that these decisions at quarterback that they didn't agree with being made because it was Gus Malzahn, but you're seeing some of the same decisions being made here. It's like, it's not Gus Malzahn. It's just facts are facts. You have your best option at quarterback in Bo Nix. The rest are kind of behind for various reasons, because they're young, because they're not as good. It's just various things there. Harsin will win the fans over if he can win on the road. I think a 9-win season and a bowl win is very possible. A lot of talent on this team. Auburn Freak, it's a great point. We when the season officially came out and announced, like the dates officially, it said this is the schedule for next year. We broke that down on the last live stream, and I initially was saying an 8-win season with a bowl win. I moved my prediction to an 8-win season in the regular season with a bowl loss, and there are various reasons for that. I won't bore everybody else with that. But I think a 9-win is very doable. Will it happen, though, is the big question. And I think there are too many variables at play here this year to confidently say a 9-win season should be expected. But if he does do that, it will be viewed as a very solid year. If you remember Gene Chizik, I think his first year was 9 wins with the bowl win against Northwestern. Tommy Tuberville in his first year, I forget what it was. Maybe it was like, did they even win 7? Anyway, 9 wins would be a big success in a transition year. But I'm hoping and believing, expecting really 8 wins, including a bowl appearance, maybe not a win. Do you like the move of Peegs moving to defensive tackle? I like any move that gets J.J. Peegs on the field. I don't care if you want to put him at kicker and run a lot of trick plays with him. I don't care what it is. Get that man on the field. When you have a talent like that with that size, I don't care what it is. Get him on the field. He seemed to indicate, if I heard correctly, that he might be utilized at both still, which would be interesting to have a true two-way player again. I don't know. Still too early to tell. The change was made, I think, like 2 weeks into spring practice, so I would imagine we can't take a lot away with it. But I like any decision that gets that man on the field. You just let the players play. And I think that's what Coach Harsin realizes. And it's a big fan move as well. Let's see. Jack says, I am buying tickets to the first 3 games. I live in South Tennessee. Those are going to be some long drives, but I wouldn't miss the first games at Jordan Hare after all that's happened. Absolutely. I think it's a great time to go. The hype's going to be there. There's hype because of the regime change. There's hype because of a pandemic. I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to confidently say we're going to have a full stadium yet, but my hope is high. So I think your long drives will be rewarded, and especially we would expect us to beat Akron. You would expect us to beat Alabama State. You would expect us to beat, forgetting who the other one is, because then we go to Penn State week 3. But those are probably going to be games where the hype will be high. I don't think if Coach Harsin gets over and somehow gets into College Station and gets a win against Penn State on the road, there'll be a lot of hype around that. Not expecting it, but it's possible. Reminded me of Allen Green kicking the field goal. Yeah, that was pretty funny. He's an athlete too himself. He's a baseball player mainly, but he's got some ability. Unbeaten Lake. By the way, saw that you followed us on Twitter, I think it was. Thanks for following us over there. Hope we see you hanging out with us a little bit more on that social media platform. By the way, if anybody of you are curious, we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. And we have a Facebook group that's called the Auburn Family Tree. Hope you'll come on over there. Now, the catch there is that you must behave. We're tired of all of this bickering and crap that goes on other Facebook groups and message boards. You can offer an opinion, and maybe somewhat controversial, but it's the way you handle it that determines whether you're allowed in there and stuff like that. We're not going to sit there and parent you and stuff like that, but just our goal is to be something different than the traditional experience that you see online. But anyway, off that soapbox for a minute. I was planning to go to the Penn State game. I still could. I don't know that it would be a wise decision for me. Jessica and I will be taking, our anniversary is in September, and we're taking a pretty big 10-year anniversary trip. And I will probably be arriving back after a long, long flight on Friday. I don't know that it's wise for me to go. I would love to, though. I'd been hoping to go for years, but we're going on a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Well, anyway, that doesn't really matter. So I don't know that it's wise for me to get back on a plane or drive for 10 hours, 12 hours, however long it is. I would love to, though, because I'd love to go to College Station. It'd be awesome. I'm going to change sports here. I love the Walker Kessler move in basketball. Yeah, we talked a lot about that. I think it was 2 live streams ago. Big surprise. Turned everybody's opinion around about the offseason for basketball so far. Neil, what's going on, man? Good to see you here. I'm sad that you missed 8A. By the way, thank you to everybody who stopped by when I had a little bit of an impromptu meetup right there at Tumor's Corner and said hello. Just a few people stopped by, but it was nice to see some faces. Anytime we do that, and I know a lot of you have asked that if we can do some type of tailgate or something like that in football season or meet more things like that. As long as you show me that you'll show up for those type of things, we're willing to set some of those things up. But how did we, overall, I would say it was a spring game. You will find things to be upset about if you're just somebody who wants to be upset. You will find things to be encouraged about if you're willing to. I saw nothing out there absolutely noteworthy. It was a spring game in a transition year that I thought is just good to see the boys out there having fun. That is my biggest takeaway from that. And I know that is the boring take. It is not the spicy take that everybody wants to have on social media. But it really is that. This isn't Cam Newton's spring game where everybody's hyped up about it and knows that they've got a talent on their hand. That type of situation. Tank Bigsby had his moments. The defense looked probably the best of any unit. And Carlson looked good. The punts, I think one thing that I personally thought from my vantage point, the punting looked pretty good. I know that's not a fun topic to really talk about, but for me, Oscar Chapman, I thought still looked pretty solid at punter. Everybody was surprised when the first kick return went for a touchdown, and then we all realized that was the trend. They weren't really doing those live. Because I think the first time it happened, everyone's like, oh, okay, well, it's a spring game. You never know what's going to happen. The second time it happened, everyone's like, uh-oh. And then the third time it happens, like, gotcha. This is not live. They're not asking them to tackle them out there, especially since it was Tank and Shivers, and you don't want to hurt them. Was going to go to the Penn State game, but the one ticket is more than 3 cupcake games combined. Yeah, I mean it's going to be a primetime game no matter how good. I mean, because you're going to expect an Auburn team to be undefeated coming in there, probably most likely. You're going to expect probably a Penn State team to. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I would suspect they have 2 easier games to start off with, since we're going to be each other's big game. So 2 undefeated teams, probably going to be a primetime game. First time you've ever seen them together. It's probably going to be on ESPN. Tickets are going to be out the wazoo, and I was willing to pay for them. I don't know that I can justify the travel arrangements. So if you can get out there, I will be super jealous of you. I watched a little bit of the Alabama A-Day game, and I'm not at all an Alabama fan. I love Auburn, but their quarterback Bryce Young looked really good. Well, I would only counter that, Jackson, with anybody can look good with that offensive line. Have you noticed that most, if not all, because I'm struggling to think of one, it's a little bit too early to say on Tua, but have you noticed they all seem pretty hyped and then they don't really pan out when they get to the NFL? There's a reason for that. Alabama's very good at getting you in the NFL as a quarterback. Making you successful? Probably not. Anybody can be good. And it goes, I know that y'all are tired of me saying this, but I'm going to keep saying it because it's the truth. Your offensive line will dictate the success of your quarterback. Period. Said and done. Cam Newton was an outstanding quarterback for Auburn during this time. I mean, he still is to some degree, despite his struggles that he's having. His offensive line does not get enough credit for his year. Byron Isom, Mike Berry, Kyle, you can't even quote him now, but I remember those two specifically because they were the pulling guards. The way they opened up lanes for Cam and the running backs was outstanding. Bryce Young seems like a good talent. He will have success because they have set up their offensive line structure to be successful for long periods of time. Period. Said and over with. I just saw ESPN preseason poll that shows Auburn ranked 16th. Well, that's pretty surprising. It's encouraging, though. We always say that we don't want Auburn to be ranked super high because we always falter at the end. So 16 feels right. I'd honestly, if I had to say, it wouldn't surprise me if people didn't want to rank us. But I could say we'd be in the top. We'd be in the 20s, something like that. So a 16 preseason poll, I'll take it. That's nothing to get upset about. No one's going to touch Tank and Shivers. Well, they'll touch them. Will they be able to bring them down is the question. If I can take what you said and run with it a little bit. See what I did there? Run with it. Running backs. Nah. NFL is a different beast. It's a different game. It's, I get all that when it's not a complete transition. But when you go to some of these bad teams, like Cam did for Carolina, you saw what happened. No coverage. He has to do all the work himself. And if you're not a guy like Cam Newton, you really can't make much with that. And that's the reason he got hurt and all that kind of stuff. 2013 was a really good offensive line. That was as well. The 2013 team is underrated. Nick Marshall is the most underrated quarterback in Auburn history. I'm going to make a bold statement here. Probably shouldn't. I'm actually looking up at his ball I've got signed by him. I would put Nick Marshall top 10 easily. I was about to make a really bold statement and say top 5. I'd need to think on that for. Nick Marshall, I think, made a bigger difference for that team than Cam Newton did for the 2010 team. Shots fired. I said it. That's just me taking a hot take right now. Anyway. Not getting your hopes up about the 16. I wouldn't. It's a preseason poll. We'll see. And anybody answer this? Did that poll come out saw ESPN? Is that like this morning or something like that? Because if that's an impression after the spring game, well, it says something. But if it was beforehand, they might change that opinion after what they saw. Remember that time UGA won the preseason number 1 ranking? Remember that time UGA thought they were going to win a lot of things? God, living here in Georgia is quite interesting. I love messing with Georgia fans. They are quite entertaining, to say the least. By the way, if you haven't, please do smash that like button for this stream. We'll be on here for a few more minutes, but love for you to do that. Help the stream out. Nick Marshall gave every team he played for nightmares. I remember talking to Bammer fans that were so happy when he finished at Auburn. Absolutely. Nick Marshall, underrated, underappreciated by Auburn fans too. Those finds don't happen. One thing that was good about Coach Malzahn is that he was good at finding talent, and sometimes in the most interesting places. People had written off Cam Newton, and he had the foresight to insist to Coach Gene Chizik at the time and say, "Hey, you need to come get this kid." Coach Chizik has said that himself. Like, he came out of his way several times to convince him to do it. He took a chance on Nick Marshall, and that worked out. All that good stuff. 2014 was a really good offensive line. 2004, excuse me. So now looking back the next season, when we lost some of our offensive linemen, we didn't do as well. Absolutely. Your offensive line dictates your success. Same thing with 2014. There's a drop-off after you lost that offensive line. There was a drop-off after the 2011 year. Offensive line will dictate success. In fact, I would challenge you, name me one team that didn't have a good offensive line that won a championship or was highly competitive, meaning, winning their conference championship, potentially being in the conversation to go to the national championship or the playoffs. Name me one. You will not find it. But yeah. I can deal with SEC fans other than Florida Gator fans. They are quite annoying, I will tell you that much. When I put up my ranking of most hated fans or other schools, obviously it's Alabama. Honestly, for me, it's LSU at number 2. Number 3 would be Georgia, just by the history. I actually don't hate Georgia and Georgia fans. I find it comical, but I recognize our history, and that's why I rank it so high. For me, it's almost a thing of honor as opposed to a hatred in sports. When I say hatred, obviously, I hope all of you know that I don't actually hate anybody. It's just a figure of speech. Next would probably be Florida, but they work themselves up there in terms of, just they're Florida. They're interesting. They're comical, but they get under your skin really easily. If you've not been down to Gainesville, I would suggest you go check it out at least one time. I'd probably go back to a game there. Interesting folks. Number 16, ESPN looking at the early season Big 12 versus SEC game to hype for ratings, in my opinion. Potentially, yes. Obviously, they need to make their money. They need to do that. That's not a bad logical way to look at it, expecting both to be undefeated. Excuse me, didn't mean to not mock that. But that's probably not a bad way to look at it. There's a reason for that. Would make sense. Doesn't really hurt them anything, if Auburn falls after that point. Oregon Ducks, 2014-15 with Mariota. The way I remember that, Jackson, they did have a good offensive line, personally, the way I remember that. But you'll have to give me a little bit more specifics than just saying that. UF fans are strange. They definitely are. They definitely are, my friend. All right, here's what we're going to do. Not going away just yet. I'm going to start rounding out the show as I typically do. Let me give you all the stuff at the end we normally share. Smash the like button if you haven't. And then let's get some rapid-fire comments, questions. Anything's fair game, spring game, all that stuff, and we'll talk about it. But here you go. If you haven't, please consider doing some of this stuff. Easiest thing, the cheapest thing that you can do, freest thing you can do is to listen to the podcast. That's our bread and butter. The link is in the very top of the chat window. All of these links you can find in the actual description for this video. If you need help finding it, though, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you. Our Booster Club, our PayPal, and our TeePublic Store are other options that you can help out. You can also subscribe and hit that notification bell. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. It will seriously help us out as a media entity if we can get to that point. There are a lot of things that come with that will be very beneficial for us to help us grow if you like us. Also, at the very top of the chat window, pinned up there, is the Booster Club. Doesn't hurt to go over there and check it out and see what we offer for being as little as a $1 a month supporter. And I hope that you'll consider coming over there and helping us pay the bills for all the 703 podcasts at this point that we have done, plus many more before we really started keeping track of things, and this YouTube channel and all that good stuff. So those are the ways that you can help support what we do here. Are you disappointed in Auburn baseball? Not so much, because I'm very lenient. If you've been here long enough, you know that I try to be very easily, very flexible, to be a very understanding person. I was willing to give everybody the pass this year, coaches, sports, for a first year with a pandemic. I think that's at play. There's injuries at play for, and I talked to a friend while I was waiting for the game to actually start on the phone about the baseball team, and he tends to be a little bit more critical and honest when, privately. And he was saying, look, I'm frustrated with it, but it's really just goes down to the injuries they've had at pitching, and Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm disappointed that they're not winning as much as I'd like for them to, but I understand. So there's a difference. You can be disappointed and be understanding. Most people, they're disappointed and they yell or they post things on social media that they would never say to someone to their face. That is my policy. What's your predictions for the SEC West in football? Well, I think if you just want to go from a logical standpoint and not emotional, I think it's Alabama will be the favored team at this point. Is somebody correct me if I'm wrong? The Texas A&M quarterback's coming back, right? Is that true, or is he done? I can't remember. If that's the case, I'd put Texas A&M up at number 2. If I'd probably put in a tie between Auburn, LSU, and Ole Miss, and then Arkansas and Mississippi State at the bottom, and I don't really know where I'd put them in that order. So I don't really have a solid answer for that, but that's kind of where I'd make a decision on. But right now, Alabama's the clear favorite. I think Auburn can be in the mix for some things, but I don't think that they'll be a serious contender by the end of it. Just kind of feeling the whole situation out. Our baseball team needs a really good offensive line. Hey, offensive lines fix everything, right? Auburn can win a national championship riding a horse, but can't win a baseball game. So, Corey, I know you're being funny, but if you're using that as a disrespect for the baseball, you're disrespecting the equestrian team a little bit. And I'm just being funny, so don't get offended. If you are, I don't think you are. But the equestrian team is dominant outside of this past weekend. They got shocked by Baylor in the championship tournament, which was very disappointing for Auburn Elvis, who does a great job with our podcast. By the way, y'all need to show him some love on social media for what he does. He does way more than y'all even are aware of out just to prepare for the podcast. And he's doing it for a sport that not a lot of people are willing to give the time to. They should. So just hope you appreciate that. But the baseball thing, it goes back to, there's more at play there. And I know it's frustrating because in a time where this is not a great sports year for Auburn. Basketball couldn't compete in the postseason, and they had their struggles as well. Women's basketball struggled and got rid of a coach. Football got rid of a coach. Whether that was the right decision or not, we'll find out. Sorry, I know that's going to stir some of y'all up. Baseball is struggling. Softball is struggling to some degree. The one surety that we had in equestrian got shocked. Women's golf is competing right now in the SEC Championship, so that can be something you take solace in. I think tennis on both sides is doing okay. I think the men's is pretty good. Golf as well. Volleyball didn't get to really compete in their first year with a new head coach. So there's just not a lot. Gymnastics was going to be competing, and then they got COVID and couldn't compete at the national stage. So there's a lot of frustrations going around this year as Auburn fans. Corey, I figured you were joking, but I understand your point. Texas A&M quarterback's gone. Okay, well, that changes things. It's Alabama, and then there's a conglomeration of Auburn, Texas A&M, LSU. Probably Ole Miss is in the mix there. You know what? I'm just going to, until I can see consistency, and I know that's only been 1 year for them, I'm going to put Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State all together at the bottom. But right now, Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn in the middle there, and then the other three at the bottom. That's really how you break it down. You didn't even know we had a golf team. Yes, we have 2 golf teams, women's and men, and they are very good in terms of just program as a program. So you should definitely pay attention to them. They're on SEC Network right now. I think the women came within 1 hole of being champions recently. We had an individual champion for the men, I think, in recent history. So we're pretty good. All right, guys, I think I'm going to head out today. Thank y'all so much for being here. Stay tuned this week. We might try to do another open call fan chat on Wednesday evening because that seemed to work pretty well. And where anything's fair game, no really set discussion points. We can talk more about this. So I hope you'll come next Wednesday. That's probably what we're going to do. Just pay attention, subscribe, notification bell. That way you'll know. And might try to do something tomorrow for the Auspies. If you don't know what that is, we might, we'll see. Haven't decided yet. I've got a lot to catch up on from this weekend. But I appreciate all of you being here and hanging out with me for a little bit of your time on a Sunday afternoon. War Report is coming up next, I think, on YouTube. If you haven't checked them out, you should. I'm going to send you on over them. If you head over to them, make sure you tell them that E2C Network sent you. And I hope you enjoy some content over there. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.